We got a storm last night, and this is all that's left. The wall of shame. There we were, 20 motorcycles in the woods enjoying beautiful weather until the approaching storm front came through and saturated everything, leaving a wake of tragedy and despair.
Quite a bit of rain into the Panhandle tonight. I think the severe weather potential will come early tomorrow. We're talking about in the first half of the day. That's when we could see one or two storms turn strong to possibly even severe, packing heavy rain. Definitely some gusty winds with wind gusts up near 40 miles per hour. In addition to that, maybe a brief spin up.
Honestly, I wasn't even paying attention to the weather, but somebody came up and told me. So we all started battening down the hatches and pulling our tarps lower to the ground, and even the tent campers started preparing for the worst.
I got the towels in the front of the tent here, so when we come in about 4 o'clock in the morning, help us, we're wet and cold.
Noah, open the door. Noah, open the door. Save us.
That's a good one, Gary.
The flood is coming.
Although I only talked to a couple of survivors, the general consensus was it was a failure of preparation and gear, a combination of gear failures, collapse of tarps, and failure of knots and preparation. And this is what I found the next morning. All these, what looks like sleeping bags, are top quilts if you don't recognize them. Some of them could be bottom quilts, but they're all wet and they're hanging out to dry. But I did talk to one young lady who had a failure and was willing to talk to me on camera after she had her situation resolved.
So my name is Marcella, and I'm here at HangCon, and we got in on Friday, and so I'm super excited. I got this brand new hammock. I've been using a war bonnet for a really long time, and it's a great hammock, but I finally got a superior gear hammock, and I'm like so super stoked. And so it was my first time using it, but I knew like I didn't want to use it for the first time out in the middle of nowhere in the woods and have something go wrong. Like, you should never use gear the very first time when you're out and about. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And my first night sleeping in it was super cold here, and I was worried that I was gonna be cold, so I got this extra underquilt that someone was selling, which was amazing, and I didn't even need it, and I was so warm, and I was like, I love this gear, this shit's the best. And so turns out the guy that makes it was here, and he's hanging in a tree, and I didn't know at the time, but I was like, I gotta find this guy, I want to tell him how awesome it is. And so last night we finished the moonshine by the fire, and we go back to our tent and our hammocks, and we're setting up, and I get in there and I'm laying in there, I'm like, this is so great, and I hear this and I'm like, oh no, what's going on? And I'm like dropping down towards the ground, and I was like, this cannot be happening. This is great. So but I reached around, I'm like, oh, I unzipped it, I'm like, oh, it's not the hammock body, it's the attached underquilt that was like attached on these hammocks, which is what makes it so great. So I was like, I'll be okay. And then I'm still warm, so it's cold, and so I'm laying there, and I could feel it like slowly sinking. I'm like, oh, this is, what the hell's going on? And I realized that the inside of the fabric that this hammock is made out of is Cloud 71, which is a 0.71 denier or whatever. It's a microweight fabric, and because I bought the ultralight version of it, and I'm like too fat to hang in that, so it's like I'm sagging and the fabric is stretching and it was tearing, which is why the underquilt tore. And anyways, so it's hanging and sagging at the same time. I realized that my backside is now flat on my gear underneath me, and I'm like, ah. So I get out, it's pouring down rain, which sucked, and I'm trying to like reclip onto move my hammock up so it'll hang higher, so I can at least have extra height to sink down to in the middle of the night. And I did that, and then I still woke up this morning, my ass was on the ground, but I'll tell you, I was dry and I was super warm, and I was like, this is awesome. So I came down here looking for this guy. I'm like, where is his hammock? I'm like, where is Brandon with Superior Gear, this man? I'm like, and I stalked out his hammock, and he finally got up, and I was like, hey man, I gotta talk to you about my hammock. It's my second night sleeping in it. and he's like, just bring me up and, bring me up to your campsite. And so we go up there, and he's like, it's this Cloud 71 fabric. We're not, we're not really making them with this anymore because we've had some failures and it's too light, and he's like, it's just a little close to the edge of the capacity of the fabric. And he totally, he flew down here from Minnesota, so he took my hammock and he left me the bug net part of it, but he took it with him. He's going to take it on the plane back with him, and he's going to ship me a new one. The only thing he can reuse in it is the down, which kind of sucks, but super cool about it. And he's like, yeah, we'll take care of you, and he's going to ship me a new one. So with a heavier fabric so that I won't fall through it. I mean, I don't feel fat, but I kind of felt 210 pounds was a bit of a much. So anyways, it was not that bad of a tragedy, but so I would say if ever you buy new gear, test it near your house or somewhere where you're not gonna have tragic shit happen where there's no one there to help you. So that's my story.
Marcella's experience is quite common. In fact, I've been saying the same thing for many years because I've seen so many campers take their brand new gear out on their first trip camping and discover that there are flaws, or they don't know how to set it up, or the gear that they haven't used in 15-20 years leaks. And this is not just hammock campers, it's tent campers, but specifically motorcycle campers. It's a big problem not testing out your gear, especially if you haven't used it. I would test it out at the beginning of every year. Every time you pull that stuff out of the closet in the spring or the summer, I would go through it and make sure that you know how to set it up, make sure that all your gear is there. Stakes, all your stakes, your tent stakes, your poles, your lines, everything that you need to set your camping gear up. Make sure it's all there, and there's only one way to do that. Put the stuff up in your backyard, or go somewhere where it's safe. Test it out overnight if you can, if you have the time. If nothing else, just set it up before the weather comes in. There's no better way to do it than that. And finding out that you're missing stuff, or you've got a leak or a tear or something has failed while you're riding across country on your motorcycle in the middle of nowhere at 2 a.m. is, it's not only a very uncomfortable disaster, it could cost you your life. Hypothermia is a real thing, and being wet in even 40-degree weather can kill you. And I don't want to see any of you folks suffer like that. So learn from this young lady and heed her advice. Do what she did. Hers, she experienced a failure, but she was close to her car. And not just that, she could have crawled up under the pavilion here and had a night's sleep. But she, like she said, she was warm, dry. It was not the disaster that it could have been in the middle of the Tetons. So don't find out that your gear doesn't work the hard way. Test it all out before you leave home. That's what I got for you. More videos coming up from HangCon, so stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to see more of these videos, because YouTube's not going to show them to you.